Captain Ben Carter stared at the massive ships floating in space before him. His exploration vessel, Aurora's Edge, looked like a toy next to the alien fleet. The ships were sleek and dark, shaped like giant teardrops with surfaces that seemed to absorb light itself. "How many do you count, Amy?" Carter asked his communications officer. Commander Amy Walsh checked her screens again. 12 large ships, sir. Each one is at least 3 times bigger than anything we've ever built." Carter felt his heart racing. In all of humanity's travels through space, they had never met another intelligent species. Earth had colonies on 12 worlds now, and the United Earth Defense Force protected them all from Luna Station near the moon. But nothing had prepared them for this moment. "Sir, they're sending a message," Walsh said, her voice tight with nervousness. The main screen flickered, and suddenly Carter was looking at a creature unlike anything he had ever imagined. It stood upright like a human but was taller and thinner. Its skin was pale blue and it had 4 arms instead of 2. Large dark eyes dominated its face, and when it spoke, its voice was surprisingly gentle. "Greetings, creatures of this small vessel," the alien said. The translation system worked perfectly, which surprised Carter. "We are the hegemony of Zephyros. We come in peace to meet the inhabitants of the 3rd planet in this system." Carter straightened his uniform and stepped forward. "This is Captain Ben Carter of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome you to our space." The alien's large eyes seemed to study Carter carefully. "I am Ambassador Vex of the Zephyros. We have traveled far to find you. Your species shows great promise." Within hours, news of the first contact reached Earth. Admiral Jake Harrison, commander of Earth's defense fleet, watched the reports from his office on Luna Station. He was a tough man who had fought in the Mars colonial wars, and something about this situation made him uneasy. Dr. Lisa Martinez, Earth's best expert on alien life, was already preparing to leave for the contact site. She had spent her whole career dreaming of this moment, but now that it was here, she felt nervous and excited at the same time. "Jake, this is the greatest moment in human history," she told the Admiral over the video link. "We're not alone in the universe." Harrison nodded, but his expression remained serious. "Just be careful, Lisa. We don't know anything about these creatures or what they really want." Dr. Martinez arrived at the contact site aboard the research vessel Discovery. The Zephyros had agreed to meet on a small space station that humans quickly built for the occasion. Ambassador Vex brought 2 other aliens with him, and they seemed genuinely interested in learning about humanity. "Your species has spread to many worlds very quickly," Vex observed as they toured the station. "Most species take much longer to achieve interstellar travel. Humans are pretty determined when we set our minds to something," Martinez replied proudly. The Zephyros shared amazing technology with the human delegation. They showed energy shields that could stop any weapon, and their ships could travel faster than anything humans had built. They claimed to represent a peaceful alliance of many species from distant stars. "We would like to establish an embassy on your home world," Vex explained. "The hegemony believes in cooperation between species. We can teach you much about the galaxy." But back on Luna Station, Commander Amy Walsh was studying the data her deep space sensors had collected. What she found made her blood run cold. Her sensors had detected massive energy signatures in distant star systems, far more ships than the small delegation that had made contact. "Admiral Harrison," she called urgently. "You need to see this." Harrison studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. The data showed fleet movements involving thousands of ships all heading toward human space. Whatever the Zephyros had told them about being peaceful explorers, the truth was very different. Meanwhile, on the space station, the negotiations continued. Ambassador Vex presented humanity with what he called a generous proposal. "The galaxy is a dangerous place," he explained to Dr. Martinez and the other human representatives. "Many species seek to conquer and destroy others. The hegemony offers protection to younger species like yours." "What kind of protection?" Martinez asked. "You would become a protected species under hegemony law," Vex replied smoothly. "Your worlds would be safe, your people would prosper, and you would contribute to the greater good of our alliance." Dr. Martinez frowned. "Contribute how?" "Through resources, labor, and military service, of course. All member species participate according to their abilities." The human delegation exchanged worried glances. This was starting to sound less like an alliance and more like surrender. Captain Carter, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. "And if we choose to remain independent?" Ambassador Vex's expression didn't change, but something cold flashed in his dark eyes. Independence is a luxury that few species can afford in this galaxy, Captain. Those who refuse the hegemony's protection often find themselves facing threats they cannot handle alone. Is that a threat? Carter asked directly. It is simply the reality of galactic politics, Vex replied. The hegemony has brought peace and order to over 300 star systems. We hope Earth will make the wise choice and join us willingly. When the human delegation returned to Earth, Admiral Harrison was waiting with the sensor data Walsh had discovered. The evidence was clear. A massive alien fleet was already moving toward human space, far larger than anything the Zephyros had revealed. They're planning to invade us, Harrison told the emergency council meeting. This whole peaceful contact thing is just a setup. Dr. Martinez felt sick. She had wanted so badly to believe that humanity's first contact with aliens would be peaceful and beneficial. Instead, they were facing the greatest threat in human history. The Earth government's response was swift and unanimous. They sent a message to Ambassador Vex rejecting the hegemony's offer. Earth would remain independent and free. Vex received the message aboard his flagship, now positioned at the edge of the solar system. His gentle expression disappeared, replaced by cold calculation. Send the signal, he ordered his crew. Begin the invasion. The last peaceful moment in human history ended as the Zephyros fleet prepared to show Earth the price of refusing their generous offer. Hidden in the dark spaces between stars, thousands of alien warships began their final approach to humanity's home world. On Earth, Admiral Harrison watched the approaching enemy fleet on his screens and knew that everything was about to change forever. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had given humanity time to see what was coming. All defense stations prepare for battle, he ordered. They want a fight, let's give them one they'll never forget. The attack came without warning at exactly 0400 Earth Standard Time. Admiral Jake Harrison was drinking his morning coffee on Luna Station when the alarm started screaming. Through the observation windows, he watched in horror as space itself seemed to tear open, and massive alien ships poured through like angry hornets from a disturbed nest. How many? Harrison barked at his tactical officer. Over 3,000 ships, sir, came the shaky reply. They're surrounding the entire planet. The Zephyros fleet was unlike anything humanity had ever faced. Each ship was a masterpiece of alien engineering, covered in energy shields that made them glow like deadly stars against the black of space. As Harrison watched, the first plasma bombardment began. Beams of superheated energy lanced down from orbit, striking Earth's major cities with devastating precision. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. One by one, humanity's greatest achievements were being erased in pillars of fire that reached up to touch the sky. All defense platforms, open fire, Harrison ordered. Luna Station and the orbital defense platforms unleashed everything they had. Missiles, railgun rounds, and laser batteries all focused on the nearest alien ships. The weapons struck the Zephyros shields and simply disappeared, absorbed by energy barriers that seemed impossible to penetrate. On Earth's surface, General Rick Stone coordinated the ground defenses from his command bunker deep beneath Colorado. His screen showed the devastating reality of the alien attack. Entire city blocks were vanishing in seconds and millions of people were dying. Sir, we're getting reports of alien landing craft, his aide reported. They're touching down in major population centers worldwide. Lieutenant Colonel Nina Brooks was already mobilizing her special forces teams. As commander of Earth's elite military units, she had trained for every possible scenario, except this one. Her soldiers were the best humanity had to offer. But how do you fight an enemy with technology centuries ahead of your own? All units, this is Brooks. She spoke into her communicator as explosions shook the ground above her bunker. The aliens are landing troops in the cities. Our job is to slow them down and save as many civilians as we can. Captain Troy Miller was running toward his fighter when the first alien dropships appeared over the airbase. The massive black vessels descended like falling meteors, their hulls glowing red-hot from atmospheric entry. Miller's squadron was already in the air, but their weapons seemed useless against the alien ships. Blue leader to all fighters, Miller called over the radio. Conventional weapons aren't working. We need to get creative. Miller led his squadron in a desperate attack run against one of the alien landing ships. His missiles struck the energy shield and exploded harmlessly, but he noticed something. The shield flickered slightly on impact. It was barely visible, but it gave him an idea. All fighters, concentrate your fire on single targets, he ordered. Hit them with everything at once. Maybe we can overload their shields. 6 fighters dove on one alien dropship, firing every weapon they had simultaneously. For a moment, the energy barrier held. Then, with a flash of blue light, the shield collapsed. The alien ship, suddenly vulnerable, was torn apart by the concentrated fire. That's it, Miller shouted. We can beat them if we work together. But even as his squadron celebrated their first victory, Miller could see dozens more alien ships landing all around them. They had found a way to hurt the enemy, but they were still vastly outnumbered. In his underground laboratory, Dr. Paul Henderson was frantically studying the sensor data from the battle above. As Earth's top weapons researcher, he knew that humanity's only hope lay in understanding the alien technology. The shields operate on a specific quantum frequency, he muttered to himself, reviewing the readings from Miller's successful attack. If we can find the right resonance pattern, we might be able to disrupt them entirely. But Henderson knew that developing such a weapon would take time that humanity didn't have. The cities were burning, the orbital defenses were being systematically destroyed, and alien ground forces were advancing on all fronts. On Luna Station, Admiral Harrison watched his fleet being torn apart. Ship after ship fell to the alien weapons, their hulls melting under the plasma bombardments. His flagship, the mighty battlecruiser Defender, was holding its position near the moon, but even its heavy armor was beginning to buckle. Sir, we're receiving reports from the colonies, his communications officer said. The aliens are attacking all 12 worlds simultaneously. Harrison closed his eyes for a moment. The scope of the attack was overwhelming. The Zephyros weren't just invading Earth. They were trying to wipe out humanity entirely. Send a message to all colonial governors, he ordered. Tell them to evacuate to the deep space stations and asteroid bases. We're not going to win this battle, but we can make sure humanity survives. The fighting continued for 18 hours. Earth's cities lay in ruins. Millions were dead, and the surviving population was being herded into temporary camps by alien soldiers. The Zephyros ground forces were efficient and ruthless, treating humans like cattle to be managed, rather than people to be conquered. Lieutenant Colonel Brooks and her remaining soldiers had retreated to the abandoned subway tunnels beneath New York. From their hidden positions, they watched alien patrols marching through the devastated streets above. Colonel, what are our orders? One of her sergeants asked. Brooks looked at the faces of her soldiers, tired, scared, but still determined to fight. We go underground, she said quietly. We hide, we learn, and we wait for our chance to hit back. Dr. Henderson managed to escape to a hidden research facility deep in the Rocky Mountains. As he watched the last news broadcast before the communication networks went dark, he made a silent promise. Somehow he would find a way to turn humanity's greatest defeat into the aliens' worst nightmare. Captain Miller's fighter squadron was down to just 3 planes when the order came to retreat. As they flew toward the hidden base in the asteroid belt, Miller looked back at Earth one last time. The planet was dark except for the fires still burning in the ruins of the great cities. The final transmission from Luna Station came at 2200 hours. Admiral Harrison, his ship burning around him, sent one last message to the scattered remnants of humanity. This is Admiral Harrison to all human forces. His voice crackled through the static. Luna Station is falling. Earth has fallen. But this isn't over. Remember this day. Remember what they did to us. Make them pay. The transmission ended as the Defender exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Admiral Harrison was gone, but his words echoed through every hidden base and refugee ship. The aliens had won the first battle, but they had also awakened something in humanity that they didn't understand. In the wreckage of Earth's greatest cities, in the hidden tunnels and secret bases, in the scattered fleets fleeing to distant stars, humanity began to change. The peaceful explorers and colonists were gone, replaced by something harder and more dangerous. The Zephyros had attacked Earth once and won a complete victory. They controlled the planet, its people, and its resources. They thought they had conquered humanity. They had no idea what they had actually done. 6 months after the invasion, Earth looked like a different world. The great cities lay in ruins, their broken skylines reaching toward an alien-controlled sky. Massive Zephyro ships hovered over major population centers like metal clouds, casting permanent shadows over the conquered planet. Major Sam Rodriguez crouched in the darkness of an abandoned subway tunnel beneath what used to be Chicago. His resistance cell had been living underground for months, moving through the forgotten spaces beneath the city. Above them, alien patrols walked the empty streets, enforcing the new order with cold efficiency. "Contact coming in from the New York cell," whispered his communications officer, a young woman named Jenny, who had been a computer programmer before the invasion. "They've got intelligence on a supply convoy moving through Central Park tomorrow." Rodriguez nodded grimly. The resistance had learned to hit the aliens where it hurt most, their supply lines. The Zephyros might have superior technology, but they still needed food, fuel, and equipment. Every truck they destroyed, every depot they sabotaged, made life a little harder for the occupying forces. The aliens had made a crucial mistake in their occupation strategy. They assumed that conquering Earth's military and governments would be enough to control humanity. They didn't understand that humans could adapt to almost anything, and that pushing people into desperate situations often made them more dangerous, not less. Agent Chris Parker moved carefully through the ruins of downtown Los Angeles, his stolen Zephyros uniform allowing him to walk openly among the alien forces. He had been an intelligence operative before the invasion, and now he used those skills to gather information from behind enemy lines. The aliens were methodical in their occupation. They had divided the human population into work groups, forcing survivors to mine resources, maintain infrastructure, and produce goods for the hegemony. But they treated humans like smart animals rather than intelligent beings, and that arrogance was their weakness. Parker had learned the alien language and understood their communication systems. What he discovered in their transmissions chilled him to the bone. Earth was just the beginning. The Zephyros planned to use the conquered human worlds as staging areas for expansion into the next spiral arm of the galaxy. They intended to conquer hundreds more civilizations, using human labor and resources to fuel their empire. Deep in an abandoned mine in Colorado, Dr. Claire Adams worked by candlelight on equations that might save humanity. She had been Dr. Henderson's student before the invasion, and when he died in an alien raid on his laboratory, she became the keeper of his research. Henderson's final notes described a theoretical weapon called a resonance disruptor, a device that could create specific quantum frequencies to neutralize Zephyros energy shields. But the mathematics were incredibly complex, and the materials needed were rare elements that could only be found in distant star systems. "If I can solve this," Adams muttered to herself as she worked through another calculation, "we might actually have a chance." Her laboratory was hidden deep underground, powered by a small fusion generator that the aliens hadn't detected. Around her, a small team of scientists and engineers worked on different aspects of the project. They had no official support, no government backing, and barely enough resources to survive. But they had something the aliens couldn't understand: the human refusal to give up. Captain Kelly Morgan commanded one of the few human ships that had escaped the initial attack. Her vessel, Defiance, was hidden in an asteroid field beyond Pluto, along with a small fleet of refugees and resistance fighters. They survived by raiding alien supply ships and staying one step ahead of the Zephyros patrols. "Captain, we've got a priority message from the Colorado facility," her communications officer reported. "Dr. Adams needs those quantum crystals we picked up from the Proxima raid." Morgan nodded. The resistance cells on Earth were depending on them to provide materials that couldn't be found on the conquered planet. It was dangerous work. Every supply run risked discovery by alien forces, but it was the only way to keep hope alive. The Defiance had been modified extensively since the invasion. Morgan's engineers had stripped out everything unnecessary and packed the ship with stealth systems, weapons, and storage space. It looked like a flying junkyard, but it could outrun anything the aliens had and hit targets they never saw coming. Back on Earth, the resistance was growing stronger every day. Major Rodriguez's network now included cells in every major city and many smaller towns. They communicated through a system of coded messages hidden in the alien-controlled media broadcasts, and they coordinated their attacks to maximize damage while minimizing casualties. The aliens had tried to break human resistance through intimidation and collective punishment. When a supply convoy was attacked, they would execute random civilians. When a communication station was sabotaged, they would destroy entire neighborhoods. But instead of terrorizing humans into submission, These tactics only made the resistance more determined and more careful. Agent Parker discovered that the Zephyros High Command was growing frustrated with the occupation. They had expected to pacify Earth within weeks, but 6 months later, they were still dealing with constant sabotage and attacks. More troubling for them, similar resistance movements were emerging on all the conquered human colonies. The humans are like a virus. Parker overheard one alien commander saying to another, "Cut off one cell and 2 more appear somewhere else." The alien didn't realize that his words were being recorded by hidden sensors that Parker had placed throughout their command facility. Every piece of intelligence was carefully transmitted to the resistance cells, helping them stay one step ahead of alien countermeasures. Dr. Adams finally achieved a breakthrough on the resonance disruptor design. Working with quantum physicists around the world through encrypted communications, she had solved the fundamental equations. The weapon was theoretically possible, but building it would require materials and manufacturing capabilities that the resistance didn't have. "I need iridium-osmium alloys, quantum crystalline matrices, and a zero-point energy generator," she told Captain Morgan during their next communication. "Without those components, this is just theory." Morgan studied the list grimly. Most of the materials could only be found in alien-controlled space, heavily guarded and constantly monitored. But she had an idea. "What if we didn't steal the materials?" she asked. "What if we stole an entire alien ship and stripped it for parts?" The plan was audacious and probably suicidal, but it was their only chance. Morgan assembled a strike team from the best fighters in the hidden fleet. They would attack a lone Zephyros cruiser, capture it intact, and bring it back to the resistance bases for study. Meanwhile, on Earth, the resistance cells prepared for their part of the operation. They would create diversions across the planet, drawing alien attention away from space and giving Morgan's team the best possible chance of success. Lieutenant Colonel Brooks, now leading the East Coast resistance from a hidden base in the Appalachian Mountains, coordinated with cells across North America. Her forces had grown from a handful of special operations soldiers to thousands of fighters drawn from every branch of the military and every walk of civilian life. "Tomorrow, we find out if 6 months of preparation was enough," she told her commanders. "Either we take the next step toward victory, or we die trying." The night before the operation, resistance fighters across Earth looked up at the alien ships hovering in their skies. For 6 months, those ships had been symbols of defeat and oppression. Tomorrow, humanity would begin the long fight to bring them down. In her hidden laboratory, Dr. Adams made final adjustments to the resonance disruptor prototype. It was crude and barely functional, but it worked. When Captain Morgan returned with the alien technology they needed, she would be ready to build weapons that could pierce any Zephyros shield. The aliens had conquered Earth, enslaved its people, and thought they had broken human resistance. They were about to learn that they had only made humanity stronger, smarter, and infinitely more dangerous. The second phase of the war was about to begin. 2 years after the invasion, the galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen before. A conquered species rising from defeat to become the hunters instead of the hunted. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, hidden deep inside a hollowed-out asteroid beyond Neptune. Around her, the largest shipyard in human history hummed with activity. Thousands of workers, many of them refugees from the conquered colonies, labored around the clock to build humanity's revenge. "How many ships are ready for launch?" Sullivan asked her chief of staff. 412 combat vessels, Admiral," came the reply. "All equipped with resonance disruptors and quantum armor plating." Sullivan nodded with grim satisfaction. The ships were unlike anything humanity had built before. They were sleek, fast, and deadly, designed specifically to exploit every weakness the Resistance had discovered in Zephyros technology. After 2 years of careful observation and analysis, they knew exactly how to hurt the aliens who had destroyed Earth. Dr. Marcus Chen supervised the final production run of resonance weapons in the underground factories on Mars. The Red Planet had been abandoned by the aliens after the initial conquest, dismissed as having no strategic value. That mistake had given humanity a hidden industrial base where they could mass-produce the weapons that would win the war. The handheld disruptors are ready for distribution to all resistance cells. Chen reported to Admiral Sullivan via encrypted communication. Ground forces will finally have weapons that can penetrate alien armor and shields. Captain Alex Thompson was test piloting humanity's newest fighter design in the asteroid belt. The Wraith-class ships incorporated technology that even the Resistance scientists didn't fully understand. Quantum phase generators that allowed the fighters to briefly become intangible, passing through solid matter for short periods. Wraith 1 to control, Thompson reported as he flew his fighter directly through an asteroid. Phase generators are operating perfectly. We can literally fly through enemy ships and attack them from inside their hulls. The breakthrough had come from studying captured Zephyros equipment. Dr. Claire Adams and her team had discovered that the aliens used quantum manipulation for their shields, but they had never thought to apply the same principles to offensive tactics. Humans, with their talent for turning any technology into a weapon, had taken the concept much further. Colonel Danny Wright commanded the newly formed Resonance Corps, elite soldiers equipped with the most advanced human weapons ever created. His troops had trained for months in secret bases scattered throughout the outer solar system, learning to use equipment that would have seemed like magic just 3 years earlier. Remember, Wright told his assembled commanders, we get one chance at this. The aliens think they've broken us, that we're just another conquered species hiding in holes. We're going to show them what humans do when we get angry. The counterattack began simultaneously across 12 star systems. Resistance cells that had been hiding and planning for 2 years suddenly emerged with weapons that could cut through Zephyros defenses like they were made of paper. On Earth, Major Sam Rodriguez led the assault on the Alien Command Center in Chicago. His fighters emerged from the subway tunnels armed with man-portable resonance disruptors, striking at Zephyros positions that had seemed invulnerable for 2 years. Take out their shields first, Rodriguez ordered, as his teams advanced through the ruined streets. Then hit them with everything we've got. The portable disruptors hummed to life, sending focused quantum frequencies that made the alien energy barriers collapse instantly. For the first time since the invasion, human weapons were cutting down Zephyros soldiers in open combat. Lieutenant Colonel Nina Brooks coordinated the East Coast offensive from her command post in the mountains. Resistance cells across the continent were reporting the same thing. The aliens were completely unprepared for weapons that could neutralize their technological advantages. New York Cell reports the Manhattan command post is down, her communications officer announced. Boston Cell has secured the harbor facilities. Philadelphia Cell has taken the alien supply depot. Brooks allowed herself a moment of savage satisfaction. For 2 years she had watched her people die while the aliens strutted around Earth like they owned it. Now the tables were turning. In space, Admiral Sullivan's fleet emerged from hiding and struck at the Zephyros orbital platforms. The human ships moved like deadly shadows, their quantum armor making them nearly invisible to alien sensors until they opened fire. Captain Thompson led his Wraith squadron in an attack that would have been impossible with conventional tactics. His fighters phased through the hull of a massive Zephyros battleship and appeared inside the vessel's command center, firing resonance weapons at point-blank range. This is Wraith 1, Thompson reported as the alien ship exploded around him. Target destroyed. Moving to next objective. The Zephyros fleet, caught completely off guard, tried to retreat and regroup, but Dr. Chen had developed quantum tracking technology that made hiding impossible. Every alien ship was tagged with a quantum signature that human sensors could follow anywhere in the galaxy. Agent Chris Parker, now operating openly after 2 years undercover, led teams to capture Zephyros command personnel. The information they extracted revealed the structure of the alien empire and the locations of their core worlds. They never expected this, Parker told Admiral Sullivan as he transmitted the captured intelligence. Their entire strategy was based on overwhelming technological superiority. They have no contingency plans for fighting an enemy with equal or better technology. The aliens attempted to call for reinforcements from their home systems, but human ships were already moving to intercept those signals. Captain Kelly Morgan's expanded fleet had grown from a handful of refugee vessels to a formidable strike force that patrolled the space lanes between stars. Any Zephyros ship that tries to leave human space gets destroyed, Morgan reported. We're not letting any of them escape to warn their empire about what we've become. The liberation of Earth took exactly 72 hours. Alien resistance collapsed as their technological advantages vanished, and human forces pressed attacks from every direction. The Zephyros soldiers, who had seemed invincible just days before, found themselves outgunned and surrounded. Dr. Adams watched from her laboratory as the last alien ships fled Earth's orbit, only to be hunted down by human fighters that could phase through their hulls and attack from impossible angles. Her resonance disruptors had given humanity the key to victory, but she knew this was only the beginning. "Admiral," she said to Sullivan over the communication link, "we've liberated our worlds, but somewhere out there, the main Zephyros Empire still exists. They'll eventually notice that they've lost contact with their invasion fleets." Sullivan nodded grimly. The immediate victory was sweet, but she understood the larger strategic picture. Humanity had won back their freedom, but they were still vastly outnumbered by an empire that spanned thousands of star systems. "Then we'd better be ready for them," she replied. "And when they come looking for their missing fleets, we'll give them a reception they'll never forget." Colonel Wright's Resonance Corps was already preparing for the next phase of the war. Human technology had advanced more in 2 years of desperate struggle than in the previous 50 years of peaceful exploration. They now had weapons and ships that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. The final alien stronghold on Earth fell as resistance fighters stormed the command complex in Geneva. The Zephyros commander, surrounded and facing certain death, transmitted one last message to his empire before human soldiers burst through his doors. "The humans are not what we thought," he reported. "They have technology we cannot understand. Do not send more fleets. Do not come here. They are no longer prey." The transmission was cut short as resonance weapons ended the alien occupation of Earth forever, but the message had been sent, racing through space toward the distant Zephyros homeworlds at faster-than-light speed. Admiral Sullivan stood on the observation deck of her flagship, looking down at Earth as it slowly healed from 2 years of occupation. The planet was free. Humanity was united as never before, and they possessed technology that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The aliens had attacked Earth once and thought they had won. Instead, they had awakened something that would never rest until the threat to humanity was eliminated forever. The hunters were about to become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same. 5 years after Earth's liberation, Fleet Admiral Tony Mitchell stood on the bridge of the massive battleship Retribution, leading the largest military fleet in galactic history toward the heart of the Zephyros Empire. Behind him stretched a formation of over 10,000 ships, each one representing humanity's transformation from victims to the galaxy's most feared predators. "Admiral, we're receiving signals from the Zephyros home system," reported his communications officer. "They know we're coming." Mitchell smiled coldly. Good. He wanted them to see humanity's response to their invasion. After 5 years of hunting down every Zephyros fleet and outpost they could find, it was time to deliver the final message directly to the source. Dr. Helen Foster monitored the approach from the command ship's science station. As director of the Galactic Defense Initiative, she had spent years developing the early warning systems that now protected human space. Networks of automated sensor platforms and defensive installations ensured that no hostile force could ever approach Earth undetected again. "The hegemony's core systems contain over 400 worlds," she reported to Mitchell. "Population estimates suggest around 3 trillion beings across their entire empire." Mitchell nodded. The numbers were staggering, but they didn't change the mission. Humanity wasn't here to conquer the Zephyros Empire. They were here to ensure it could never threaten Earth again. General Steve Kumar commanded the expedition's ground forces from his mobile command center. His troops were volunteers from every human world, united by their shared experience of Zephyros occupation and their determination to prevent it from ever happening again. "All landing forces are ready, Admiral," Kumar reported. "We have precise targeting data for every major military installation in their core systems." Captain Lisa Reynolds, commander of the flagship Retribution, reviewed the tactical displays one final time. The ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, 5 kilometers long and armed with weapons that operated on principles the galaxy had never seen before. Quantum tunneling drives allowed it to appear anywhere instantly, and matter conversion weapons could disintegrate entire fleets with focused energy beams. "Fleet Admiral," Reynolds announced, "all ships report ready for the demonstration." The Zephyros had built their empire on the belief that superior technology made them invincible. For thousands of years they had conquered species after species, always confident that their energy shields and plasma weapons were unstoppable. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zephyros core system, and the aliens' reaction was immediate panic. Thousands of defense platforms activated, massive battleships moved to intercept, and planetary shields powered up across dozens of worlds. "This is Fleet Admiral Mitchell of the United Earth Defense Force," he broadcast on all frequencies. "We are here to deliver a message to the Hegemony Council." The response came quickly from the largest Zephyros station, a massive structure orbiting their capital world. "Human fleet, you are in violation of hegemony space. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Mitchell almost laughed. Even now, facing a fleet that dwarfed anything they had ever assembled, the aliens still believed they were in control. "We tried withdrawal once," he replied. 5 years ago, we withdrew from our own worlds when you invaded them. Today, we're here to make sure that never happens again." The demonstration began with surgical precision. Across the Zephyros core systems, human ships appeared simultaneously above every major military installation. The aliens' planetary shields, the same technology that had made their invasion fleet seem invincible, collapsed instantly under quantum resonance attacks. Captain Reynolds watched the tactical display as Zephyros defense fleets tried to respond to the assault. Their ships moved like they were swimming through thick liquid compared to the human vessels, which could phase in and out of normal space at will. "All targets neutralized," Reynolds reported. "No civilian casualties, but every military installation in the system has been eliminated." The attack lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, the Zephyros hegemony's military power had been completely destroyed across their core systems. Not a single civilian had been harmed, but their ability to wage war had been surgically removed with precision that left the aliens stunned. Dr. Foster monitored the alien communication networks as news of the attack spread through their empire. The response was exactly what humanity had hoped for: complete shock and growing terror as the Zephyros realized they were now the helpless ones. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Hegemony Council," the communications officer announced. The main screen activated, showing a chamber filled with Zephyros leaders. They looked nothing like the confident conquerors who had demanded Earth's surrender 5 years earlier. These aliens were terrified, desperately trying to understand how their victims had become their masters. "Human leader," the chief counselor spoke in a shaking voice. We request negotiations. The hegemony is prepared to discuss terms." Mitchell stepped forward, his expression as hard as the metal hull of his ship. "There are no negotiations. There are no terms. There is only the message we came here to deliver." He gestured to the tactical display, which showed the complete destruction of their military forces. 5 years ago, you attacked Earth without warning. You murdered billions of innocent people. You enslaved our survivors and planned to use our worlds as stepping stones to conquer the rest of the galaxy. The Zephyros counselors flinched at his words, but Mitchell wasn't finished. "Today you learned what humanity does to those who threaten our existence. We don't just defend ourselves. We make sure the threat can never return." General Kumar's forces had landed on the capital world, not to conquer, but to establish monitoring stations. The human soldiers moved through Zephyros cities like ghosts, setting up equipment that would ensure the aliens could never rebuild their military, without humanity knowing about it. "The Earth Doctrine is now in effect," Mitchell continued. "Any species that attacks humanity or threatens human worlds will face complete elimination. Any species that aids or supports such attacks will face the same fate." Dr. Foster activated the galactic communication network that humanity had built over the past 5 years. The message was being broadcast to every inhabited system within 1,000 light years, ensuring that every civilization would understand the new reality. "We are not conquerors," Mitchell explained to the terrified Zephyros leaders. "We have no interest in ruling other species or building an empire. But we will never again allow anyone to threaten Earth or its colonies." Captain Reynolds monitored the alien fleet positions as human ships prepared to depart. The demonstration was complete and the message had been delivered. Now it was time to return home and let the galaxy absorb what they had witnessed. "Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting Zephyros ships throughout their empire," she reported. "They're all powering down weapons and withdrawing to defensive positions." Mitchell nodded with satisfaction. The aliens had gotten the message loud and clear. They would never again pose a threat to humanity. As the human fleet prepared to leave Zephyros space, Mitchell made one final broadcast to the galaxy. "Let this day be remembered throughout the stars. Humanity was attacked once and we lost everything. But we learned, we adapted, and we became stronger than our enemies ever imagined. The fleet began its journey home, leaving behind an empire that would spend generations trying to understand what had happened to them. The Zephyros would survive, but they would never again dare to threaten another species. On Earth, now surrounded by the most powerful defenses in galactic history, children played in cities that had been rebuilt stronger and more beautiful than before. They grew up hearing stories of the dark time when aliens had conquered their world, and how humanity had risen from defeat to become the galaxy's protectors. The phrase, "They attacked Earth once," became a warning told on countless worlds throughout the galaxy. It reminded every species that some lines should never be crossed, and that humanity's patience had limits that wise civilizations chose never to test. Fleet Admiral Mitchell returned to his home, knowing that his mission was complete. Earth was safe, humanity was secure, and the galaxy understood that the species from the small blue world was not to be trifled with. They had attacked Earth once, and in doing so, they had created their own worst nightmare, a humanity that would never again allow itself to be vulnerable.